Hi all, I appreciate you stopping to watch this video. It's intended to demonstrate why we always see the face of the moon instead of the other sides of the moon. And I'm going to explain that using the teacup ride. As you can see, here's the center spout of the teacups, and then these are the individual teacups. When I refer to the steering wheel, this is the steering wheel I'm talking about. This is the thing that you hold to lock down the teacup in place. I should also say this whole thing started about 8 years ago in an argument with my friend David, and we haven't resolved it since, despite having spoken to many different scientifically inclined people, despite having other videos on YouTube to the same effect. We haven't yet found somebody who can disprove the evidence that I'm about to present, or at least explain why it's not accurate. I guess I'm not really here to disprove or prove anything. I know that there's a lot of smarter people out there than me. But that said, I haven't really found anyone who can talk me out of what I'm presenting here, despite this being kind of the minority opinion across the internet. So if you happen to be an astronomer, please identify yourself as such and let me know what's wrong with the logic I'm about to present. Really appreciate the conversation about it. So here we go, the moon's rotation about its axis as explained by teacups. Alright, here's our guy in the ride. This is where that spout was, the center axis, and then here's our teacup. And there's that steering wheel I was talking about. If you've seen the teacup ride before, again, axis 1, axis 2, this is the one that the teacup spins on. You've seen before these teacup rides. If you remove your hand from that center steering wheel, the cup rotates freely on its own axis. If you put your hands on it, you essentially lock it into place, so it faces the same way it was facing when you locked your hands down on it. So I think probably a better explanation of what I'm trying to present would be as if this guy pulled out a big drill and actually drilled the teacup into the ride itself, because I'm not necessarily arguing that it doesn't spin on its own axis, as much as I'm arguing that its own axis was removed by the fact that it was removed when the Earth chose to tidally lock that face to the Earth. So yeah, I guess my argument is that the moon, or in general this teacup, does not have an axis when it's locked in place, though I know that it still does when this guy is holding on to it. But even in that case, it's still not rotating on it, so it doesn't ruin the argument as much as just kind of I wanted to go a little bit further into explaining that my actual argument is that it does not even have an axis upon which to rotate anymore. So here we go, he's removing his hands. He can rotate freely. Putting his hands back on, he cannot rotate freely on the axis. And just in putting this together, I thought this guy kind of looked like that Mortal Kombat guy, Goro. So from now on, he's going to be our Goro. And away he goes, spinning the first time around the axis. Quarter turn of the way through, you can see that his hands are still locked on the steering wheel, and so he's still facing the center of the ride. Going around, still facing the center of the ride, still facing, till he ends. Man, that was a super boring ride for Goro, because the whole point of this ride is that the individual teacup can also spin on its own axis. So Goro wants to have a little bit more fun next time, so he removes his hands from the center axis, thus allowing it to spin freely. Okay, so around and around it goes. Second ride is going to be a lot more fun for Goro, hopefully, because this time he's not facing the same direction every time. Now he's facing something else besides the center axis. And so as he goes around, I totally agree he could be facing any which way for ease of making this PowerPoint. He's facing this way. We'll address that in just a minute here. But he goes around, still going around, still facing right here away. In every different place he's facing away from that center axis of the ride. And so obviously the comparison I'm trying to make here is that the center of the ride is the center of the Earth. Now, I want to be careful to clarify that I am not arguing that the center axis, that the Earth is the center axis itself. I'm arguing that the Earth's axis, the center of the Earth, is the axis upon which the moon is spinning. I, of course, am saying that the teacup is in fact the moon. So imagine that this guy is sitting inside the moon and is able to lock that moon down upon its axis so it can no longer rotate upon its axis. What I'm trying to get at here is that's exactly what the Earth did with tidal lock. It locked that moon down on its axis, so although it used to spin freely, now it doesn't. Now it's locked down on that axis and really just part of the Earth. I know that tidal lock is real. It's just as real. It's less tangible. You can't reach out and touch it, but it is equally as real that tidal lock exists. And so I guess if you just want to imagine a steel bar heading from the Earth to the moon, I guess that's what I have in mind here when I'm describing this, is that steel bar is the equivalent of tidal lock. So around he goes, not locked upon his axis. Oh, and yeah, again, the whole point of this is we only see one side of the moon. We see what's called the man on the moon, or rabbit in the moon, depending on where you are in the world. And the reason we only see that one face, as David would argue, is that the moon is spinning once every 29 days or so, just like the Earth. My argument is that it is just part of the Earth. And so here we go. He's going around, not locked upon his axis, and the man on the moon is no longer facing the people on Earth. The people on Earth are mystified right now because they're seeing a whole different side of the moon than they've ever seen before. And as it goes around, oh, I also wanted to make the point here that the Earth is also spinning on its own axis. And if you have a problem with that, if you can't imagine two different things spinning on the same axis, just look no further than your wristwatch. Than your wristwatch. Now, as you can see here, there's a center axis, and there are three different things going at different rates around that same center axis. You could make them spin completely, backwards, but it wouldn't change the fact that they're rotating independently upon the same axis, but they're all on that same axis. So here we go. He's facing away. Man on the moon is now facing a completely different way. Again, the people on the Earth are seeing a whole different side of the moon they've never seen before. Round and round he goes. And so here's where I wanted to address. Of course, this could happen. That could happen by just happenstance, that the moon spins once every 29 days, just like the Earth. But it doesn't. Tidal lock exists. And so, plus the odds of that are infinitesimal, that the moon just happened to choose that rotation, and that's fine. I agree that there's things that happen like that, but it's actually fairly commonplace in the galaxy. There's several moons in our own solar system where this happens. It's very commonplace, especially with large moons throughout the galaxy, that they do get tidal locked, and so those odds aren't really infinitesimal anymore. They're actually kind of expected. That's just what's expected of a moon, is after a while it will slow down its rotation and tidal lock with the body that it's orbiting around. So here we go. He's now locking the moon down onto its axis, and around it goes. And thankfully for the people of Earth, they get to see their man on the moon, because the moon has locked down. It's no longer spinning freely on its axis. Is locked down, and we all get to see the moon. Even as the Earth spins, no matter where you are on that Earth, you're seeing the man on the moon. And so I just got a guy standing up here in the middle of the ocean here. He may be out on a boat, and guess what? He just saw the man on the moon because it is locked down on its axis. So around Goro goes, and as you can see, the moon mimics the teacup that does not rotate upon its own axis, rather than the teacup that does rotate upon its own axis. And with that, Goro has had so much fun learning about all this, but he got super sick because he hates spinny rides. And so with that, I just want to thank you so much for watching this video. I have some other thoughts on this exact same matter. The first one, as explained by tetherballs, I'm sure you can see exactly where I'm going to go with that one. The tether would be the tidal lock. Some more maybe interesting or intricate examples would be the moon's rotation about its axis as explained by bicycles, or the moon's rotation about its axis as explained by hoverboards. This one is invented more as an explanation of why a common argument about the moon's rotation about its own axis seems not valid to me. And so if you've ever heard anyone talk about, have somebody stand in the center and then have another person stand outside of the center and face them the whole time as they orbit around them, it's a very common argument that people use to, or I guess a very common demonstration people use to show why the moon does rotate on its own axis as it orbits the Earth. This was kind of invented to show why I
Charles
find that
is in for the touchdown. The Chiefs have done it again.
So, anyway, I really appreciate you watching this video. Please watch the other videos, like, comment,
Pull up your drawers, my man. Pull up your drawers. You just
Thank you
put
very
the
much.
Chiefs to your